TPN at technophilespodcast.com. I'm David Geisler, and this is the Technophiles podcast.
It's trying to do what Google doesn't, in part because it's not very profitable.
This Tuesday, Krista-Lee brings a story about DARPA creating a search engine for the deep web. After the break, Vee talks about a new fashion accessory that might get even more girls interested in coding. Let's dive into that deep dark web because this is Technophile's 255th episode. Hey everybody, welcome to tonight's show. I am joined with the regular cast, Miss Krista-Lee Malone. I'm introducing you first because you're the one not laughing right now. How are you doing, Krista-Lee?
Good, how are you?
I'm well. Tony Stiglich has found his composure. Tony Stiglich, how are you doing?
I am also doing well. Thank you.
Fantastic. Vee Laabs is over here breaking it up. Something happened.
Electric
just as we were coming in.
It's all good.
Fantastic. Vee Laabs, how are you?
I'm doing fine.
She's like, I'm fantastic.
We're making dark web jokes over here.
All those dark web jokes, they go a long way.
Dark web comedy.
Get some every time.
Yeah.
Classic. We had some classic dark web
Yeah.
jokes.
Oh man, you missed it, guys. You missed it.
It becomes a genre.
Yeah.
Stand-up comedy.
Dark web comedy. You can only find it on the dark
web. But
web.
then there's like 10% of people that don't like it.
It's the dangerous kind of
doing dark web jokes.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't want those people that actually are.
Yeah, they don't get it because they're
offended.
not on the dark web.
And that's when the FBI started taking the podcast.
Hey guys, happy
Those
Tuesday.
jokes are illegal.
They're so funny they should be. There it is. Okay, we killed it with that one.
Back to reality.
Killed it with that one. Guys, happy Tuesday night to you. Tonight we are talking about two things. Krista-Lee, you brought a story about NASA and DARPA joining up to work with the deep dark web. And then we're going to go to break. And Vee, when we come back, you have a story, which I have to check my notes real quick. What's your story about?
It's about
Jewel bots.
Yes.
This was a late submission. What is this about? Give us more like a 1 or 2 sentences.
Coding bracelets for girls.
Coding?
Coding.
As in like writing code.
Writing code.
Very good.
No, the bracelets do the coding.
Very good.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying codeine.
This episode, that's what I thought too. That's what I thought too.
Like,
Speaking of the dark web and drugs.
Yeah, John
Hey.
was like, this episode's definitely taken.
jewel bots.
Jewel bots. Out of control.
Wow.
Out of control. Let's reel this episode in here, guys. This is fantastic, though. Krista-Lee Malone, you have a story here about the dark web. Tell us all about it. NASA.
Well, more about the deep web. Okay, so this came up because NASA just joined this effort. However, DARPA was already working on essentially it's a search engine. It's called Memex, and it's trying to do what Google doesn't. In part because it's not very profitable, but basically indexing so that you can search the deep web. The deep web being, everything that
lives behind the stuff that normal users use, you could say.
Right, exactly. So like the way they break it down is like the stuff Google will show you is the surface web, and I've seen estimates of anywhere from that is only 1 to 5% of what is actually on the internet. And what Memex wants to do, or I guess that's the search engine, what DARPA and NASA want to do is search everything. So I read a little bit more about why NASA is going into this. DARPA, I assume, just does stuff all the time because they can.
Yes. Coincidentally,
God.
DARPA got bought by Google like a year or so ago. I'm not joking.
Yeah.
I think we talked about it on this show.
What?
There might be some technicalities, but I think Google owns DARPA now.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Totally true.
I will check
Tody's
on
going
that.
to
Verify
fact
this,
check
please.
this,
Yeah,
but let's keep going.
because it's a
Please
government
verify.
agency.
I thought it was. If I learned anything from Metal Gear Solid.
If Metal Gear Solid is known for anything, it's its realism.
Right.
Yes,
okay.
absolutely.
All right,
and
so-
knowing how genetics works.
So while
Tony's going to keep looking, but let's keep
Yeah,
going.
let's.
So NASA's joining in, and part of what they're talking about and why they wanted to join in is because when they have information being sent back from like probes and satellites, for example, New Horizons, which I know we've been talking about a lot in the newscast, all of that kind of winds up, or I shouldn't say kind of, all of that does wind up in the deep web. And then this takes a lot of man hours to go through and index everything and try to sort through it.
And that is, of course, the difference between the deep web and the dark web, isn't it? I just realized. Deep web is everything. Dark web is is that back corner alley in Diagon Alley.
Yeah, that you can't
If
access.
you use your flute powder wrong, you are in the dark web.
You
Right.
can't access it using a normal browser.
Right. That's a good one. Diagon Alley. Yes.
Did he say Diagon Alley? Oh, into the dark web.
And I'm wearing the Gryffindor shirt.
You are indeed fantastic.
Yeah, so, and they're trying to make it work better than Google also because they talk about like indexing videos and pictures, which I know Google has been working on stuff like that, right? But it's not, it's okay. No offense, Google. I use you all the time, but your indexing of pictures is just okay. And when you get photos coming back from like a probe or something, they don't have keywords and stuff that are added, which was when you Google image stuff, usually what you're actually searching is keywords attached to images, right?
A little bit of metadata, a little bit of...
Right. So that's different there. They also talk about, and this is both really exciting to me personally and also kind of like a shoot, I wish this was around sooner, but then indexing scientific research better. Because let me tell you, I've been in grad school for, it feels like my entire life now.
Okay.
And trying to get a handle of an entire field of work is a very daunting task. But you have to do it because like part of getting my PhD is you go through like prelim testing and your research, and they're literally certifying you as an expert. So you have to know what's going on, which is actually quite difficult because people are doing research and putting out books all the time. And even doing something like Google searching something when it comes to scholastic work is really not very useful.
Yeah.
I mean, this happens all the time.
Google Academic is
right.
shaky.
Google's Scholar is okay.
Or Scholar, that's
okay.
what
I mean, I use it, but like I will put in something. A lot of these words, that it's jargon. It's very specific, right? So even if I go to Google Scholar and I put in a very specific word that I'm looking for, half the time I'm getting, I'm an anthropologist if people don't know. I get these like biochem stuff coming at me that is totally irrelevant because Google Scholar doesn't know.
Doesn't know how to sort by like field or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
It can't do this. And so if Memex does this and it sounds like they're talking about making it that way, I will love NASA forever and ever.
I will say, if I may, I could not find any evidence that DARPA was owned by Google at all, but they work very closely with Google and specifically the ATAP team that we talk about quite a bit.
Maybe it was that. Maybe they bought a part of DARPA or something.
Well, DARPA's still a .mil.
Yeah.
So that would also.
No, maybe we got that wrong a long time ago.
I think, I think they just work very closely together. So.
Yeah.
Well, there was something crazy about. Oh, maybe it's just the robotics division or something, because there was like the some of the DARPA and Google with their self-driving cars, and then some of the goats and the cows and the horses that DARPA was making.
Goats?
Yeah, I think goats. I think mostly they were working on goats.
Ghost.
This is like, I have the authenticity of like a guy around a campfire right now, I think, just being like, yeah, and then they made robot goats, guys. And it's happening, man. It's happening.
Metal Gear is real.
There is the DARPA Robotics Challenge that Google withdrew from.
Oh.
But
I don't want to derail us. You guys keep talking about it. I think I might have just found something
on
Fortune.com.
So, okay. Doesn't this have the potential to be very dangerous if released to the public?
Oh, well, yes. And I'm very on the fence about this. So, yes, as a researcher, I'm thinking of all of these ways that I could use it. But of course, I have also had like extensive training in doing research, in protecting informants. I have gone through extensive ethics training and, or even, let's take it down a notch, basic scientific literacy. Now, I see this problem on Facebook all the time where somebody gets access to some, say, preliminary research, and they're like, oh my God, scientists have just filled in the blank with some ridiculous thing that they in fact haven't done.
Right.
What they were actually doing is they were reading something about preliminary research, but because they don't really understand, one, what preliminary research is, and what kind of information you get from that type of research and what you do with it when you're responsible, it gets blown out of proportion, and all of a sudden people on Facebook
false information being spread.
Right, are getting false information. I mean, the point of preliminary research is here we did this thing and it worked for 2 people.
Yeah.
That is not a data set.
Yeah.
That is something that you then go and be like, it worked for 2 people. Please give me funding so I can try it on more.
So get a bigger sample size. Or whatever.
Right. But I thought of that right away when I was like, part of me is like, oh my God, I want this. But then at the same time, I'm like,
there's going to be so many more stories.
Like I do not look forward to some of the crazy stuff people are going to start believing if they have access.
Yeah.
Or even to the raw data in general.
The idea is this never goes public, right?
Well,
Yeah,
no.
because outside of even scientific research or things like that, isn't the idea that if it's searching the deep web or the dark web,
you're kind of already on the other side of that wall.
Yeah, I mean, I would think a lot of things, are behind there for legal reasons.
Well, sometimes they're just there because some of it might be legal. Yeah. Sometimes that data's just there still because it's there because no one's made a blog about it or some stupid thing like that. I mean, I'm making a joke here, but you know what I mean?
Seriously, yeah.
I did find out it wasn't DARPA, it was Boston Dynamics. About a year and a half ago, Google bought Boston Dynamics. And they're the ones doing a lot of the robot stuff, and they work with DARPA from time to time. Boston Dynamics and DARPA used to be kind of one and the same. Yeah, I remember a couple years ago you could think about them almost as the same company, but that's what it was. So it wasn't DARPA.
So in the NASA.gov news release, they actually say, and I'm going to quote here, we are developing open source, free, mature products and then enhancing them using DARPA investment and easily transitioning them via our rules to the scientific community.
Okay, so it's not a hugely or public thing. It's just going to be for the scientific community, right?
It'll be like in the olden days of the internet when it was just colleges connecting to each other and they'd have to log in and just share their files.
Maybe it's going to be like another kind of academic service thing where you log in if you're a scientist or whatever.
Possibly, but see, and they don't specify. So maybe my concerns are unfounded, and maybe it will be something like that. Like I know there is it's a Facebook-like thing only for scientists. You have to have the credentials in order to get on.
And what is interesting about this, I was overhearing most of that, is that it's not just Google looking for. Google basically looks for tags and a little bit of text strings and a little bit of how many people are clicking and all that kind of stuff for popularity. I'm imagining a lot of stuff in the deep web, obviously, as you were saying, isn't tagged. So this is going to be something that's going to be scanning these, I'll call them articles, but not articles, papers, pieces of data, whatever. Probably, hopefully, contextualizing some of that, creating its own version of its own kind of tags, quote unquote, that kind of thing. I think that's really the impressive part of this Memex technology. And that's borderline. That's basically robotics. It's just not physical.
Yeah. And they I totally just lost my thought. I thought about trying to bring it back. I'm like,
tags, Memex, contextualizing the data.
So that was another thing that I was thinking about. I was actually trying to tell somebody else about this earlier today.
Were you telling somebody that you were going to be talking about it? And you're trying
It
happens all the time. It happens all the time.
And the example I used, because the person I was talking to, it was before my morning coffee, so I wasn't speaking very clearly. I will admit. So finally I was like, okay, let me give you an example. So I came back from 3 years in Taiwan doing research, and it took me months to go through my data and code things and find keywords and make connections. And I had pictures and I have handwritten notes, all this stuff. I mean, just a ton of stuff. And one of the things I thought of is, well, if they come up with a really good algorithm, what if one day I could come back from the field, shove it at this algorithm?
Do it, computer.
It comes back and it's done. And then I can just start writing right away. And I don't have to spend months coding all this work. And think about it. Okay, so I did 3 years in a foreign country, and it took me months. Granted, I was working alone. Now I wonder, how long does it take NASA to go through all the data coming back from New Horizons or any of the other probes that have been out there?
I'm totally convinced that data is still happening from, everything they've gotten 10 years ago and more. They're always analyzing and
poring over
I'm
it.
sure. Well, I mean, even outside of the analysis, right? Like, I don't expect an algorithm. The algorithm is never going to analyze the work that I do.
Pluto, planet.
Right.
Well, the algorithm says, guys. I don't know.
Wow.
But even just like basic coding, the basic like organizing and indexing of your
Yes,
data,
I
which does
see.
not involve
I see.
analysis, that alone
I
took
see.
months before
Yeah.
I started analyzing
Yeah.
it. And that's why I'm like, if it could do that, and then I could just
Glorious.
jump to analyzing
Oh, guys,
it.
we got so much data on these pictures of these stars. We got to index. It's going to take us like 20 years to index. Get Joe the artist in here. Joe, paint us a picture. There we go. Put that on the web. Yeah, that's what the data tells us.
Make it rockier.
Make it rockier. Okie doke. Well, anyway, yes, this is very cool. We should be going to break shortly. But do you have any closing comments? Vee,
Did I just take up the whole segment?
No,
all right.
like this
well,
is.
it was your story.
That's
Like
sort
you
of-
brought it to us.
Yeah.
So okay, yeah, this is neat. I'm not like an academic of your caliber, where I can relate to the usefulness of this, but I can appreciate documenting the things on the internet that aren't usually reachable by normal means, and sorting things out and getting more organized and making that available to people who need that information. So good on DARPA.
Love it. And further, on the side, that little side note tangent thing, I guess Boston Dynamics works with contract with DARPA all the time. So that's the Google DARPA connection.
Okay.
Anyway, we'll go to break and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about girl jewelry.
As opposed to boy jewelry.
Hey, let's.
And
we
so-
don't need
make
to
it-
gender
or just-
I
It
wanted
can
to
be
make it
for-
It can
sound
just
as
be
like just
jewelry.
Yeah. It can be
Techno
for-
jewelry.
can be for-
Well, you know.
Codeine
No, I don't
jewelry.
know.
It's marketed
Actually,
to
wait,
girls.
I'm going to stick up for it a little bit. I know I said it in a funny way just because we were coming off this like really serious topic.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's funny to say it that way. But it does seem that this is a strategy to help girls visualize coding and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe if there was a boy version, that we'd be doing the same thing, but with dinosaurs. We'll find out. We'll find out when we come back.
We'll
from
talk
break.
about it.
Excellent. See you guys in a bit.
Hi guys, David Geisler, host of the Technophiles podcast here. We get to cover a lot of great topics on the podcast, but sometimes we want to talk about even more tech-related news. Fortunately, we found a way to do that. I'd like to tell you about another show that we do. It's called the Technophiles Newscast. It's a quick little show that comes out every Monday on YouTube and iTunes. We actually have a really good time doing it. It's kind of become a little bit of a spin-off show from the Technophiles podcast. It's a lot like the podcast, but it's snack-sized. You can find us on YouTube or iTunes by simply searching Technophiles. We can't wait to see you on the Technophiles Newscast, and now back to the show.
Hey guys, we are back from the break, and I just overheard something 30 seconds ago. I heard, I want one of these for myself, and I think Krista-Lee said that about what we're about to talk about.
True. We
Yeah.
Cool
agreed.
thing.
Me and V were both kind
I
of like,
only bring it up.
yeah.
I only bring it up. It's because as soon as we stopped recording after the first break, you said, I'd prefer dinosaurs.
But they're not offering dinosaurs.
Oh, fair
Yeah.
enough.
If
fair
they
enough.
offered a dinosaur, I'd buy the dinosaur.
Maybe jewelry wearing dinosaurs,
Well,
that'd be
hey,
kind
maybe
of cool.
you can. Maybe there's some. We'll talk about it. There's
dinosaur
some room for
adapter?
modification.
Vee Laabs, tell us what we're talking about. It's always, here's the thing. Every 6 months or so, we get like a technology for girls story. And sometimes, 80% of the time, that company that's doing it totally gets it and it's really exciting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a matter of fact. Sometimes it's just a matter of fact that girls want to program flowers to light up and boys want to program lightsabers to light up. Sometimes
Or-
that is just the case.
I
Yeah.
would take a lightsaber too.
I know, and I get it. I understand.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
in the masses, that is sometimes just the case. So what are we
Exactly.
talking about here?
We are talking about Jewel Bots. This is an article that's on Wired right now, and also a Kickstarter. And they're described as friendship bracelets that teach girls to code. So what they are these little kind of I don't know a charm, a plastic flower charm that goes on like an elastic bracelet, like a basic hair tie or anything like that. And it has the ability to light up and vibrate and like give notifications and whatever just by lighting up different colors and under different circumstances. It's a Kickstarter that's been going on right now. Their goal was like $30,000 and they're at like 106,000.
Yeah.
And they still have about 2 weeks to go from this point. But what this is doing is it's a girl focused, like feminine focused way to get girls into coding, where, you know, boys typically, when they want to get into coding, it's like, oh, I'm like customizing my MySpace page, or like I'm making a mod in Minecraft or something, you know, usually video game based or something like that.
Girls play Minecraft too and stuff, though, right?
Oh, they do.
Yeah,
they do. But I would say the modding community is a lot more boy focused.
Sure.
It's more boy dominated. Where this
maybe in 2 or 3 generations it won't matter anymore.
Oh
right
yeah,
now,
right now that's just where it's at. But the creators of this have been kind of, you know, being part of that group that's encouraging young girls to code. Have been trying, you know, different angles of how to get them into it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's like during their prototypes, they were kind of like, oh, well, you can program this flower bracelet to coordinate with your outfit for the day. You know, you can code it to be a different light. And a lot of the girls and like the preteens were like, that sounds kind of stupid.
Huh.
And
because why wouldn't there just be a button that changes the color or something?
Exactly. So what they did is they made it more complex. The themes that kept coming up for them was communication and friendship. So not only is it just like a little bracelet that you can plug into your computer and code to do whatever, it also comes with an app, you know, basic functions where it's like it uses Bluetooth to talk to other bracelets, like your friends can have them too, and you know, when they're within a radius it'll do something, or if you have your phone with you and you get a notification, it can blink and whatever, and you can tell it to do that via the app. But you can go deeper than that, get more specific, have it do different things and have different outcomes.
Logic models.
Yeah. By coding it. You plug it in and it gives you like the open source. I think it's open source.
Is it code or is it like logic code, like that that Dot and Bow robot for kids?
Ooh, I don't know.
Dot and Bow is a toy for kids that are like 5 years old, and it quote unquote teaches them coding because this robot talks to an iPad app, and then you lay out instructions the same way that you would with code, except instead of it being like 5 somewhat abstract sentences, it's just a block of something that represents a piece of code for the kids. I'm wondering if this is somewhere in the middle of that, or if it's full on, you know.
I think it might be full on. This is what they're trying to encourage, is that they get more in depth into like kind of the real stuff, you know, how to understand those models, and they take a very like positive approach to it, where it's, you know, they're like, coding is important and girls need to know, or girls need to have these opportunities to code that, you know, normally they wouldn't get. And it's not like kind of demeaning, like, oh, it's for girls. It's like coding can also be not just like a masculine thing. It can be used for a lot of things. It can be used for a lot of things.
I like that.
It's got a lot of different contexts, and this is one of them. So it's sharing that with that group, and you know, it's not just, oh, you're working on a computer and you're modding a game like my little brother does or whatever. You know, oh, you can code your bracelet to like light up a certain color when your friend is in the area and you can find them or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, I'll do all these different really cool things. And learn how to do
I'm fascinated with where the power source is on this thing, but
I believe it's just charges, since you can plug it into your computer.
It looks mostly transparent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a neat part of it.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a lot more in depth than like we had that story about the flowers that light up, like the coding garden, like a few months ago.
Yeah, I brought that story.
Yeah, that was yours. Yep. This is kind of similar to that, where you can code it to do that, and then do that under different circumstances.
It goes both ways. There might be a girl out there who just thinks it's cool and then all of a sudden starts to learn code because of it. It's also proving the point that, like, if you know code, look, you can use it for a lot of different things.
Yep. And it's also really cute. And I kind of want to get one just because, I'll be honest, I don't know a lot of code.
Krista-Lee and Vee, they're going to have their...
We
coding friendship bracelets. Yes.
We learned how to code together. I can't code.
Hey girls, can we have some too?
Yeah.
No, it's
we could all do
We'll have
this.
a secret vibrate for when it's just you and me.
Yeah.
We could have a coding episode, like an open box episode of a Technophiles podcast where we all open up and get our bracelets. This would be awesome.
I believe the second tier level on the Kickstarter is where you actually get some.
Yeah, it was
I
at
think they said
$60.
for $60. Yeah, you
Yeah.
get two.
Yeah.
You in the friend.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
So yeah, so
Maybe we should
right off
think
the
about
bat,
this.
it encourages that sense of
Yeah.
communication and
If we could
friendship.
get our hands on some, we'd make a video out of it. That'd be fun.
Oh, that'd be so cool! Oh my gosh. Like I wish I had one of these when I was a kid.
Arduino
Yeah.
software. Okay, I didn't see that earlier. Yeah, it's full. It's probably full on
Arduino.
code.
Yep. Mm-hmm. It is so wicked. I highly recommend watching the video of the creators talk about it. They explain it really well, and it's
Yeah,
They're very
we'll put a link to that
positive.
video in, or maybe I can even embed the video in our post on our website, technophilespodcast.com.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, I can get that in there.
yeah.
Well, this is fantastic, Tony. How do you feel about all this?
Anything that bridges the gender gap in STEM, I'm for.
I'm for it too.
There. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a ton of experience with friendship bracelets or things like not due to lack of friends, guys.
Uh,
I wasn't
Tony
gonna say anything.
Tony just walks around. He
but
has one and just holds one
But
and just looks.
yeah, it just never vibrates.
He's got
He just sits like this and brings it
he's
closer.
got two of them. High five.
High
Yeah.
fives himself.
Play hide and seek by just throwing one into the bushes.
I coded this one to like this one, but this one doesn't like this one.
That's what I sounded like at 12. How'd you know?
That's good.
Whoa! Yeah.
I just hit the pneumatics on my chair and went straight down. All right.
Welcome to my
With,
world.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to Vee Laabs.
I guess what I actually found interesting was when they were saying how they came up with the idea. Because, like you said, a color changing thing to their clothes did not care about at all.
Right.
But then, like, you can send secret messages. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I absolutely
There it is.
get the
You
appeal
get it.
of that.
Yeah. Like that's you go from like the shallow version of what girls like to like the real deep version of what girls
Do you
are
like
like.
me? Check yes, check no.
check no. And also I just
You can
that made
code
me,
that
that made me
blue,
realize
like red.
something.
when
Yeah,
your
that's
crush
true.
is in the area.
Oh no, when she makes the crush wear it.
Oh.
That made me realize, and I think I've lost the thought though, that I think I did lose it. I apologize. I'll
That's
think
all right.
about it. We were thinking about coding. We were talking. What did you just say, Tony?
About sending secret messages and how it was interesting that
Oh,
was what
yes.
appealed.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It reminded me that there's no new technology necessarily going on here. There's nothing that's really breaking ground. This is any smartwatch and some other bands will do this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
This is just really, really interesting because of the context of it all, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah.
a new use for an existing technology.
Yeah. It's
Like I wouldn't want anybody to be listening to this and going like, "What that person does? That's just an Apple Watch, or that's just a Samsung Watch, or that's just a yeah." Of course it is.
Yeah.
But this is a really great, significantly less expensive way,
Right.
You know, for people to learn
A
stuff.
lot of people are not going to spend the however many hundreds of dollars to give their kid, like especially
just so they
Yeah.
can, just so they can
in
heartbeat
Apple
tap
Watch.
to each other on
Yeah.
their Apple Watches.
Right.
Not gonna happen.
this has it is like a less expensive, very basic Apple Watch. It's like an Apple Watch for kids, but without the time feature. But you can program it to do. It's a flower. But a lot of the little things you can program it to do is like when your dad texts you that he's like at wherever to pick you up, it'll flash blue or whatever.
Yeah,
and
that's
like,
cool.
Boom. Or you get a new follower on Instagram and it's purple and it, it flashes a few different colors or whatever. But it's completely practical and great. And I kind of want one because I don't want a smartwatch right now. I'm pretty good with my phone, but if I could have like my notifications.
What's the name of the company that's doing this? Did you say already?
It is
It's not just JewelBot, right? That's the product.
yeah, that's the product. The company is I'm looking at their
looking
Kickstarter right
Kickstarter.
now. Yeah.
Girl Develop It.
I guess so.
No, I think so. Is a developer and co-founder of Girl Develop It,
There you
a
go.
nonprofit that teaches women to code. It says here on the Wired.com article written by Kyle Van Hemert.
So going along with the Apple Watch thing, like I have no desire for an Apple Watch, despite the fact that I can't afford one, so it's a moot point, right? And it's not even so much that like I want to walk around with like
Apple Watch specifically, or just any kind of smartwatch?
any smartwatch.
Yep.
Yeah,
Got it,
okay.
got it.
So that's
Yep.
unfair to Apple.
Yep. No, I was just
I'm
wondering.
not right. picking on them. And it's not even so much that I want to, like, 'cause I'm looking at the picture here, and obviously I am not of age for their demographic, but I still want one because even though I'm like, okay, that's
Cute.
not really my style, it's more like the idea of, well, what an interesting way if I want to teach myself to code, and then I can do this little thing, immediately see if it works or not. And I feel like I would make more progress in actually learning. So I have sat down and tried to teach myself before.
Yeah.
And basically I think it was like something stupid. I was trying to actually encode so that when you bring up a tab for my website, that it would actually say my...
So you were coding, you were using some web language, web code or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, it's the simplest thing, right? It's just so that the tab would label. And I wanted to throw my
So
computer
you were
out
working
the
in
window.
HTML, do you think?
Yes.
That sounds right?
HTML.
Okay.
And it was awful. It was absolutely awful.
And so be careful because HTML is like the most basic one.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. Partly it was my fault that it was awful because what happened was I had heard that HTML is the most basic one, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna.
How hard could it be?
Right, how hard is it gonna be? So I got no books, did no Google searching, nothing. I just opened up somebody gave me what was it? Like Dreamweaver or something like it.
Oh, you did it in Dreamweaver.
I decided
There's your problem.
to sit down with Dreamweaver.
Nope.
Did you just look at the code?
Listen.
I didn't even look at the code. I just started typing stuff.
Okay, that's also. Okay,
no.
we got it.
Yeah.
That's fair. Adobe makes some really fantastic products that I use for multiple hours every single day. Dreamweaver is not one of them.
I got. It's always a struggle.
Too bad I didn't know
Dreamweaver's
you
almost
5
more
years ago.
frustrating because it's a little that uncanny valley. You're either too far into this graphic user interface trying to build all these things, or you're just full code and it tries to code for you. You draw a rectangle and that's supposed to be a frame for something, and the way it codes it might not be the way the logic of your brain would do it, so it just becomes a hot mess.
Yeah, so I went away from the graphical because I couldn't figure out with that what I was doing. I went in and I basically sat down and tried to like make code up out of the thin air.
Oh, well, come on.
Aww. Well,
but you want to know what?
It's like me saying I know how to play basketball.
Several hours later, in one Skype call to my good friend Mark Chen, I got it to work.
hey, there you
Oh,
go.
there you go.
Can I tell you about my experience
Do
in
it. We
HTML?
got a few more minutes and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, sure.
Tell us all about it.
But this is how I got into HTML coding. Neopets,
Oh.
of all things. That was a really great introduction for me.
What's a Neopet? For those of us who don't know.
Was a virtual pet website where you would adopt a pet, some sort of fictional pet. I really liked shoirus. They were small dragons.
Was this like 5 or 6 years ago or
Many
more?
years ago, more
I
than
think
that.
it was more than that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been around for a long time, still around. And it was kind of one of those exciting, like, oh, it's like a whole world on the internet, and it was like barely Flash animations and things like that. And you could there were message boards, and you could customize. Every pet got a pet page that would,
Here we go. This is where you're doing it. So you
This
started
is where it
styling
happens.
your pet page or building your pet page?
You style, first of all, I mainly went on the role play boards. You could role play with other people and whatever. And you could stylize the way you typed, like your posts. You could have a default, when you type, your font is this size and it's this font and it's this color and it's centered if you want that. And so I had to learn how to code that.
Yeah.
And then on your pet page, you could, upload photos like fan art or whatever that you drew. And so I had to learn how to use HTML, image hosting, altering the text to be it bold or centered or aligned, whatever way. And they gave you 5 tags that you could, in case you didn't know how to use it, like bold, italic.
Well,
title.
those are real. That's just normal.
Those are real, yeah. But that's all they gave you on Neopets, and then the rest of it was I gotta Google this stuff. And so I did, because I was like,
so
how do I put
it
in...
used regular HTML.
Yes.
And it sounds like
Yeah.
some style sheet stuff, whether you knew you're doing it or not.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think it got into style sheets on there, but you could go into the code of your pet page. It would be edit your pet page. And I was like, okay, let's go.
I remember 20 years ago when I was learning when I was really first starting to learn HTML, and I was at the chapter or the section where I was learning how to do bring an image up, and I didn't understand that you're searching it from a another server. That you're putting
Yeah.
this file from a server,
Yeah.
and I was like reading the code. I was like, okay, image, and then I was like, but where does
Does
it
it come from? Yeah.
Like, it doesn't
That's
exist
exactly-
because I say it does.
That's exactly what I went through too.
Then I had
and-
to learn about actually like hosting on a server.
Yeah, like I was like, okay, so where do I do this? And then I learned about Photobucket.
Because actual just
Yeah.
what is it? Isn't HTML like hypertext markup
Hypertext
language?
markup language, yeah.
That technically can just work, and you can do bolds, and it's strong, and it's strong in EM these days, and it's all changed a little bit. But
Yeah.
that stuff can still exist without having to go to you don't have to go to a server for
Yeah.
something bold. Oh,
Yeah, that was wild.
and then I found out how to do that, and things
Changed
got fun.
everything. Yeah.
Crazy.
See, and I wonder, because of my web page debacle, if maybe even like this would be better for me than Neopets, because I just feel like having this, even if I have to like, and now that I've had that experience, I would of course Google how to do things,
Right.
Well, I
rather
think-
than trying to make it up from scratch.
Yeah. This is more active
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
just
rather than just display.
exactly, and that's
Right.
why I think like this
That's like a whole.
could do it, where I'm just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I'll Google this information, I'll put it in, and then I'm going to see it blink. And
If
I'm gonna
it
be
and
like,
if,
yes,
if
I
it does
have
the thing, you
success.
know it works.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of more like if-then stuff going on
Yes.
here with this one.
Yeah, true. Well,
It's
and
more
that's what
logic-based.
learning is.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if this works, then this lights up. And then,
Yep.
but I think having that object, especially for a beginner, regardless of my age, which is not 12, I think that's going to make the difference. That's going
Yeah.
to give
When
me
it has a function,
yes, it's going to
it has a purpose.
be that satisfaction that I need as a beginner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, that's kind of cool. We're gonna go check this Kickstarter page out. Girl, develop it. See if I can
You want
see
to
if
go
I can get my hands
halvesies?
on some of these.
Let's go halvesies on one of these.
Okay, let's talk off there.
see.
All right.
Talk about it. Talk about it off air, which will be momentarily. Because if anybody wants to go halvesies with you, Vee,
Hey guys, if you want to, I'm gonna go halvesies with like 5 people and have like 6 of these things on my arm.
No, real quick, here's what we do. Vee's birthday is tomorrow.
Hey.
My birthday's in 2 weeks. If
Oh!
anyone
Hey,
wants to buy
you wanna-
us a birthday
Yeah.
Oh my
present,
gosh!
So-
Whoa! Now we're just making demands at this point.
Buy us stuff
come
for
on.
our
we
birthdays.
will thank you on the box opening show.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness!
Shouts
Okay,
out.
okay.
Shouts out.
Vee, people can find you on Twitter.
I'm taking back my no presents policy from the last episode. If you want to get me something for my birthday, let me know on
my
Twitter
goodness.
at bear_Annika.
My goodness. Tony Stiglich, people can find you on Twitter at.
By the way, I'm sorry for
He's stunned
monopolizing
right
the conversation this episode. I am at Tony_Stig.
Fantastic. And Krista-Lee Malone, people can find you on Twitter
At Gamer Anthro.
Fantastic. We love it when people tweet the show at Technophiles Pod, or find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching Technophiles. Of course, you can go to our actual website, technophilespodcast.com, where you can find show notes to this episode and find some of our other shows we do, like the Technophiles Newscast, and in a few weeks, Branching Dialogue. In the meantime, I guess I'll see you guys next Friday. Vee will be 1 year older. Krista-Lee will almost be 1 year older. Do you want to make we should do like a birthday video or something? I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we can do something. Maybe we can do like an episode, a mutual birthday episode. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Until that time, happy Tuesday night. This is a fun episode.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys later.
Yeah.
I'm David Geisler, and you can find me on Twitter at Raptor Paint.
Wow.
Wow. I almost forgot that one. Okay, see you guys.